Battlestar Galactica Season 3, Episode 3 is over, but we have to go fracking down the hatch here on RHAP. We know scripted TV, it's down the hatch. It's Exodus, Part 1 here on Down the Hatch as we are 3 deep into BSG. This podcast turning around relatively shortly after we dropped the last one. That's because we're just burning the midnight oil here. The smell you smell is the burning of the midnight lamp as me and Mike Bloom make them podcasts for you and try our best to get these guys the hell off of this rock, Mike.
Yes, absolutely. Should we do what this episode did and just completely copy and paste the last 10 minutes of the previous podcast to start this one?
Yeah, so this is like the first 10 minutes of this episode are dedicated to how like our wives had like a very well-timed plan to like get us like to like stop being idiots wearing Halloween costumes on camera.
I mean, that's a fruitless endeavor on paper, but
yeah, clearly it didn't work.
I don't know. I'm personally dressed up as Chris Evans from Knives Out. I don't know about you.
Oh, weird. So am I.
Wow. Who would have thought? Well, one of us has to change.
All right. Well, let's just pause down real quick. I'll get back into my bat suit. No, Mike, this is the first of the two-parter, Exodus Part 1 here on Battlestar Galactica, and a lot going on. Things are getting frantic, as to your point, doing that Rashomon thing we loved to do on Lost from time to time, have done historically on BSG as well. We're flipping the script on some of the things that happened in last week's episode and setting things up for whatever's to come in the two-parter as action-packed happenings with a couple of different shootouts, some subterfuge, some espionage, maybe a baby that's still alive that is going to cause all kinds of possible problems or solutions, depending on what side of the line you are. And Ellen's in trouble, too.
Oh, Ellen. I mean, I should have known, Josh. I know it's been a bit of a lengthy pause since our time on BSG, but I truly forgot how quickly the pace of this show can go.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a little abnormally slow. Like, even William Adama mentioning to Lee, like, yeah, if I don't meet up with you, go find Earth. It's like, yeah, you technically did get this whole entire Vision Quest thing in the Tomb of Athena a little while back that gave you the coordinates as to where Earth was, and we kind of eschewed all that. But considering that even by the end of this episode, like, we've had the rendezvous, Baby Boomer is now on Earth behind enemy lines. They have a plan to escape the planet, which I'm assuming is going to happen by the end of Exodus Part 2, hence the title of it as well. Ellen's duplicity has already been outed. The whole thing about, oh, baby Hera's not dead, which definitely causes, a bit of a pause, at least for a second, in Baby Boomer before she promptly puts 2 bullets into the kneecaps of Deanna.
Unbelievable.
We are just moving at an absolute clip here in episode 3.
Yeah, Sharon's emptying an absolute clip into Deanna's kneecaps.
Yeah, and I love this as well. Of course, we've talked about Dean Stockwell's larger presence in the beginning of BSG Season 3, but Lucy Lawless's increased role here was a bit of a surprise to me. I thought maybe she'd be a bit like her character in Parks and Rec, where she, like, appears in fits and starts in a few episodes, but like is tangentially connected to the plot in a larger way through another character. But no, this was really a highlight episode, honestly, from Deanna's perspective. I would argue even more so than Final Cut, which is her POV episode, in that she is our latest Cylon to have a bit of a crisis of faith. And it is revisiting a facet of the Cylon peoples that we have not talked about in a while.
Yes, she is having some major feelings as it pertains to the divine and the idea of we're getting like the idea of like the shape of things to come, right? Is something that that was the name of the beautiful score to the end of Season 1 and the possibilities that are presented by Hera's arrival. It's been a minute since we've really had that be like a majorly relevant part of the show, but clearly it's bubbling back up. To what degree In what direction is anybody's guess. You clearly have some thoughts on where things might be going based on this episode, Mike. The episode title, as you mentioned, Exodus. So you're thinking we'll get off this rock by the end of next episode. There are other ways to make Exoduses as well. That is to just be fully wiped out and killed. So
that's true.
This is Battlestar Galactica that began by genociding humanity. So I wouldn't just write that that passport ticket off of New Caprica quite yet. Let's see where this ends up going. But I think a really exciting start to one of my favorite two-parters. I won't play cool here. One of my favorite two-parters of BSG, and very much like we're not going to rate it this week because I think it is an episode that has to be judged by both parts. But we'll see what you think on the other side of this thing.
I've talked about this with the other two-parters that we've gone. Definitely feels like the first part of a two-part episode. Not to say that this one didn't contain some interesting stuff in it. To your point, a little bit of the record scratch rewind, like, it was a bit of a fake out at the end of the episode. Yep. The firefight is actually coming from the good guys, not the bad guys. But I will say that, definitely feels like it was prepared to be a two-part story rather than two chapters that happen to combine over one installment like we got with the first two episodes.
Yes. Okie dokie. Well, where to begin here with this episode of Battlestar Galactica other than exactly at the end? We open this episode with a repeat of the scenes that ended Precipice. It's Callie running, Laura and Tom are being lined up, and then that dreaded title card 1 hour earlier. And we cut to the insurgency bunker where Ty is having a hard time patching up his tie hole.
That makes sense. His depth perception is a little off.
He needs Ellen's help to patch up the tie hole. And as soon as that's done and she's like very gentle and loving with him about the tie hole, suddenly in walks Chief, and it's from a tie hole to a tear hole. And Chief Tear Hole shows us
he's crying out of his tear holes at this point.
Oh my God, they've got Callie.
Did he also shave in between episodes? I was trying to remember if we had bearded Tyrrell last episode. Maybe I just Mandela affected myself.
Yeah, I mean, he had the beard at the end of season 1. Did he shave between episodes? Maybe.
It's like, all right, my wife's gone. Sometimes when characters get really gritty, they grow out the beard. Tyrrell, it's the exact opposite. He's like, I got to put my life together to save my wife.
Yeah. I want to go back and look and see. Did you have a beard while you were? If you get a chance to just give that a double tap, Mike, if you're able to walk and chew gum, I'd be very curious to know if there was a beard in the previous episodes. But Chief is freaking out. He doesn't really know what to do, and leave it to Colonel Ty, who says, "Listen, we've got got the ability to read where they're going now. We know what their coordinate system is like. We've already cracked that." An editor's note from the team behind the curtain is that the implication here seems to be that there are other execution transport convoys that they've either not stopped or tried to intercept, that they just watched those in order to get the data.
I'm trying to figure out how big the list was initially, right? Was the packet handed to Baltar fairly thick, or was it just, hey, we're really going to prune with the most important people, aka Roslyn, Zarek, Callie? Because if that's the case, I mean, listen, there's going to be a lot of egg on the Cylons' faces in this episode as well as their own blood, but that would be a fairly big L if they concentrated all their services into one convoy that then just gets completely hijacked.
Yeah. So I don't know. Listen, I'm glad that I'm not down on New Caprica making these kinds of calls. They have hard choices that they got to make out. Chief is able to figure out.
They got to make out.
No, well, Chief and Callie maybe want to make out on the other side of this. I don't know. Chief's going to work out the coordinates. He grabs Celix. Do you remember Celix?
No, absolutely not. Celix sounds like the name of a podunk product you use to seal up the grout in your bathroom.
Yeah. Got a bug problem? Roaches keep popping up in your tub? Try Celix. I feel like Celix is like a product that's being hawked on I Think You Should Leave. So it doesn't
Yeah.
exactly do what it's supposed to do.
Or is Celix the ship name of like, I don't know, Felix Gata and
the Seabucks, because he thinks the
yeah,
Seabucks are
exactly,
the best.
exactly.
Yeah. When the Seabucks come into town, don't call me Felix. Call me
Call me
Celix.
Celix.
Yeah. So Celix was previously seen on one of the ground teams on Cobalt. So not Celix's first rodeo, Mike.
Okay. Also, I did double check. Yeah, Tyrell's got a big old beard in Precipice and Occupation. So not a clue as to what happened with this man's hygienic routine.
He just got like so stressed out that he took his beard off.
Maybe he pulled it off. Yeah, he was
Was
just
it a
so
fake
aggravated.
beard?
Well, because you know, he's got a lot on his mind, and I really give credit to the actor here. It's talked about in one of Stanislavski's chief books that I remember reading one of my first days in school studying theater, as to like one of the hardest acting exercises being that you've lost a brooch and you have to search through a room and not directly, you know, go for it knowing where the location is, that you really have to kind of like delude yourself, get into the mind of a character who not only doesn't know where it is, but also like freak out more and more as the idea of you not being able to find it develops in your mind. And you really see that here in this scene as he just like furtively searches through just all the random odds and ends and documents that have been thrown his way over the course of the past 4 months before he is able to find the exact coordinates where he can get himself, the apparent cleaner that is Celix, and a bunch of other people to clean house, as it were, and take down these Cylons that are about to take out an entire group of people.
I'm still hung up on the fact that in between episodes, he just took the beard off.
Yeah, like
this, you know, Mike. Mike, your present theory is that Chief is a Cylon, right?
Oh,
is this a tell?
I mean, if there was one person that you could easily trick by completely coming in with a different look, it would be the man with one eye. Like, if he says, "Hey, didn't you have a beard?" It's like, oh, well, you do only have one eye, so maybe you were mistaken.
Wait a minute. Didn't you have a beard last week?
Oh, no, your eye must have been seeing things.
This damn eye.
Oh, no, funny. Let's blame your wife. What did your wife do?
She shaved me. Ellen, you bitch. Okay, so Chief and Celix are going to go to the, hold on, checks notes, the Pergamus Flats.
Yeah, I mean, we have, interestingly enough, they did meet up at Beggar's Canyon as well at the rendezvous point, where once upon a time, I don't know if there were any pod races being held there prior to the rendezvous.
Called? Did they call it Beggar's Canyon?
I'm pretty sure Sam called it Beggar's Canyon as where they would meet last episode.
All right, so what's the Pergamus Flats then? The Pergamus Flats has to be a thing. Yeah, you search Pergamus Flats and Battlestar Galactica shows up.
I would say that the Cylons did about as well in Beggar's Canyon as Bed Quadraneros did in the Bunta Eve?
Kabasa. Yeah. That was a different guy, I think. Ben Quadraneros just didn't get off the ground at all.
Yeah, he just completely exploded at the starting line.
Yes. Pergamon, or Pergamum, also referred to by its modern Greek form, Pergamos, a rich and powerful ancient Greek city. So that is the Pergamus Flats.
It's interesting. Oh, yeah, I would assume that the people named it that. I guess it's interesting to figure out, like, did the Cylons reappropriate any of the territory names in their honor? Because I would imagine with the Greek etymology, they're all still celebrating, like, the Greek gods.
This is number 1 hill.
Yeah, exactly. Like, listen, the Cylons are not the most creative bunch, so maybe they just left it.
Is number 2 hill.
Yes, exactly. Please visit Picturesque 010001 off the highway.
This is number 5 hill.
Now, are there only 12 hills that they can name? Is that the policy of Cylons?
What are the rest of those hills called? Looks like nothing to me.
No. We just repeat them. They all look the same.
Pergamus Flats or Rascal Flats, Mike? You have to make a choice.
Well,
as do we all.
life is a highway.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna go with Rascal Flats personally.
All right, so Chief gets there. Callie is there, and he sees that she's making a run for it just as the Centurions are starting to line up.
And sort of like Excite Bike style, I thought she had just gone for the woods. Instead, she's going like up and down these little speed bumps. And basically, Celix is just gonna start open firing on the open firers. And Tyrell's like, "No, I can make it. Giving count to 5, and I'll tackle my wife. And I'll tackle my wife out of the way." Thank goodness Celix is a slow counter, or else like this would have gone very, very badly.
Yeah. 1 Pergamus Flats, 2 Pergamus Flats. So
she could have shaved the corners off of her time, and then it would have been.
Maybe she could have shaved his beard.
Yeah.
So Chief tells Celix, count to 5, and then you can let the fear in. And luckily he does not get turned into angel hair pasta as he's able to tackle Callie, and Roswin's also able to save Zarek as Celix and the gang are able to take down the Centurions.
Yeah,
they shoot a Cavill.
Yeah, who bleeds out and dies in a rather graphic way, as he'll give later on. And then on the other side of things, because if I'm the Cylons, I'm thinking like, well, this operation's botched, but at least we get the drop on those pesky insurgents, right, over in Beggar's Canyon. But much like Sebulba, Josh, it all goes belly up, as the insurgents had also either anticipated some treachery, or they're just safeguarding upon all safeguards and had like a group of people with a freaking grenade launcher hiding in the brush waiting for the Centurions to come in.
If Adama is going to be sending a Sharon and a couple of other soldiers down to New Caprica, the least he could do is arm them with a grenade launcher.
That was absolutely wild to me. Like, I guess they picked it up. They were on the right Halo map that they picked up, like, the ultimate weapon of destruction. I don't know how they got hands on a grenade launcher.
A grenade launcher. They got the full grenade launcher. So we see the whole rendezvous again. Seabucks rule, the whole thing. She wants to meet with Ty, and Sam says, maybe one more night. Maybe just wait until nightfall. Let's get out of here first. And getting out of here turns out to be complicated. They get shot at. Couple of Sam's people get shot. One person gets shot. And then, we grenade launch the Cylons. And when they go to the Cylons, this made me laugh. The Centurions have one of the maps. Yeah. And I just think it's very funny that the Centurions just like were wandering around like, can you read this thing? And the other one's like, I am shocked that I even have the dexterity to manipulate a paper map without.
I told you we should have taken the left at that tree. Why do you never listen?
It's so gendered that you never ask for directions. Don't be so proud.
So they said that one of the quote-unquote skin jobs had a map on them, which I love. What an incredibly dirty euphemism that I don't think we've heard before. But these are not like humanistic Cylons. These are more so the Cylon sympathizers, right? That ended up having the map contained within them.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, yeah. So this isn't like, one of the Dorals ended up getting taken down. They all kind of look the same when they have like the military regalia on.
I believe that's right, but I guess I'm not 100% sure. But
because later on, when they're briefing Baby Boomer for the mission, they say like, "Watch out, you're one of those skin jobs, and so you'll get a lot of stuff thrown at you." So I'm not sure what the term refers to be quite honest.
Skin job definitely does refer to the humanoid Cylons.
Okay, so then Sam says they got it off a skin job. So I'm assuming then it was one of the Cylons.
Maybe just a Doral. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so but then he looks at it and he's like, okay, so yeah, that's my handwriting. It's fracking Ellen. He just knows it's Ellen.
Yeah, I mean, he did probably have his own internal flashback to Precipice, like a lot of us did, and remembered like when it was the 3 amigos and then Ellen walks in and she takes the map. Like, it's a pretty easy line to draw, right? When she says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll definitely burn this one and only map that you drew yourself." When you see it in the hands of a skin job, I kind of have to jump to that conclusion.
So Sam and Sharon, they get back. Sharon's got she's got to go and basically like decommission all of the Cylon firepower. That's the plan, right? It's like,
yeah, so it's basically that they have detained all of the military spacecraft. Like even though a lot of the military had been scaled back in the year since they landed on New Caprica, a bunch of it is basically like detained by the Cylons at this point, and they need launch codes in order to get into it. It's decrypted, encrypted, I should say. So Sharon has to go behind enemy lines into the detention center, get the launch codes, and then basically, as they're going to outline, assumingly next week, we're going to see all hell is going to break loose. A bunch of our main characters are going to like make a break for a hangar. And then once they get the launch codes, they're going to be able to commandeer a bunch of Raptors and Vipers to get everyone the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, so that's the game plan. That's what they're hoping to do for their purported mass exodus. Meanwhile, Ellen shows up, and the second she shows up, Sam's like, Ellen. And she's like, and so we got to lock her away.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, Ellen looked like she was on the precipice, for lack of a better term, of trying to tell Ty something, right? Trying to brief it with like, you know, I'd do anything for you, right? But damn that plot convenience. Tyrell walks in at the wrong time to show off his new baby face. Actually, a lot of baby faces in this episode, Josh. That's the main plot point.
Yeah. No baby Andy. So she gets locked away, and Sharon, who's been told like, hey, when you go in, maybe don't wear your dog tag. She's like, I had to earn these. You don't know what I went through.
Why would you do that? Like, if she walks through a metal, well, actually, if she walked through a metal detector, I think it'd be the one thing to hint that she was a Cylon. But like, I don't know, if she trips and falls and the dog tags fall out, that's a very easy red flag to anybody who might be nearby.
Yeah,
like, the point of pride should stop somewhere here when you're trying to go undercover.
So she's not gonna do that though. She's just like, I'm gonna hang on to the thing. I have to hang on to the thing. I earned the thing. We stay on Sam for a bit. Rosalind tells Sam, hey, so there's this kid, and this kid is like really important, and if nobody else gets off of New Caprica alive, the kid has to be one of them. Like, the kid has to get off New Caprica.
And then Anders throws out the other possibility of like, okay, but if the Cylons have the baby, essentially implying, do I have permission to kill the baby if need be? And Rosalind's like, listen, that's dark even for 2007. Let's not even explore that plot point yet.
But Sam, who was like, you know, like Sam with like sort of like bootleg Han Solo energy, right? Like, I feel like being the guy to say that is intense. Like that, I think like shows sort of like the desperation. Like, he's not like the happiest go lucky character on the show, but I do think he has like a different sort of like swashbuckler energy from most of the other characters. Like, his energy, frankly, like matches Starbucks very well. And like, he's the one who's like, should I, like, if it comes to it? And she's like, I'm not hiring you for this job for you to frack it up. So
Rosalind's like, no, I already had a storyline where I was going to kill a baby. Let's not explore this
I'm
again,
past
please.
that. That was a year and 4 months ago.
That was so season 2, Rosalind.
That was very season 2. So Chief is arranging the ground response for when the rescue comes. He has arms and munitions stored around the city. Matthias with the grenade launcher is like, okay, well, I've got other grenade launchers, so...
What if that's his one thing? Is the only thing he brings to the insurgency is that he happens to have a grenade launcher.
Tori is here, and Tori's saying, all right, well, here's our plan. We've got 500 block captains scattered throughout the city who know how to evacuate their block and get to the right ship. They have somehow managed to do 3 drills under the guise of fire and natural disaster drills. So they've been planning this for a bit, Mike.
So they're like, tsunami, quick, everybody, let's make our way to the hangar for no particular reason.
Yeah, they're like, did you guys feel that? Earthquake! And the Cylons are like, we don't feel anything.
Well, that's the thing, is maybe, you know, for the Cylons who continuously regenerate, they don't need fire drills. The fire drill for them is like, I will merely perish in the fire and then wake up reforged in its flames. Like, they don't necessarily have to prepare themselves for any sort of worst case scenario. And so the humans have been able to succeed in spite of that.
Yeah. Sam once again is like, so the baby though? And Rosalind's like, okay, hey, and guys, this
So
is Sam.
when do I shoot the baby
This is
exactly?
Sam with his 2 best shooters, and their job is to protect the baby. And then Sam, like, yeah, it's like, Ty comes in. Ellen is very happy to see Ty, and then Sam is like, yeah, very bad news. Ellen sold us out. That was the map she was supposed to have burned. And she's like, yeah, but I did it because the Caffles said they were going to kill you. I didn't have a choice. And the camera does like this incredible zoom in on like,
his one eye.
See, like this is who I think of when I think of Colonel Ty, is because like I just like, like he, spoiler alert, he lost an eye. It's not like it's coming back. And so like it's not like gonna like grow back in. So he's like this eyeless guy.
What if like Tyrell's beer next episode he just shows up with 2 eyes and there's no explanation given?
I just feel like Colonel Ty's wide-eyed look is iconic to me. Like you see it at the start of the episode as he's like trying to put the bandage on, and here like the camera just like going in his face like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
it's really great.
So I imagine we're going to be dealing with the fallout next episode. I mean, it's interesting because obviously, despite her misgivings and the way she may have come across in the previous 2 seasons, Ellen does truly love her husband. And we talked about, unfortunately, some of the things she's had to do for the idea of keeping him alive. The unfortunate thing about telling Ty, like, oh, I did all this to keep you alive, is that Ty is the guy most pushing the idea of, like, I don't care if I'm alive. The insurgency needs to. And so for like 99% of the rest of these rebels, that argument would have gone over so much better than Colonel Ty, who would be like, yeah, so what? Yeah, just put me back in there. It's fine. If I go, the rebellion will flare up even more as long as these people get off. And so I think it's unfortunately going to be a plea that I imagine is going to fall a bit on deaf ears, because it's not, if Ty, as I talked about last week, if she had gone immediately to Ty with this ultimatum or threat, if you will, that Cavill provides, Ty would have been like, okay, sure, I'll go to jail again. It doesn't matter.
Right. So what do you think? This is trouble in paradise though, for sure.
I mean, I could see
this is paradise.
Yeah, I mean, oh god, if this is paradise, good lord. If this is Cloud 9, I don't know what Clouds 1 through 8 are. I would say that I could see this going in a couple of directions. Like, this could be a little bit of like a Billy-esque canary in the coal mine, in that it's like, okay, now we're setting up something where like Ellen sacrifices herself because she feels so bad about putting the mission in danger. And I could certainly see that on the one hand, and that would also be an interesting driver for Ty, especially further into the arms of like, nothing matters anymore. I don't know, dude. I don't even want to be around anymore. There's too much shit on me. On the other hand, that doesn't really feel like an appropriate ending for Ellen Ty, who has been such like a perennial tertiary antagonist of the series, and that like she was always coming in and causing a bunch of mischief to happen, even when she wasn't supposed to, like during the hostage crisis at the end of season 2. So like I could imagine it, but honestly, I don't know how I would feel about it, because it wouldn't feel very Ellen Ty to be like, because I love my husband so much, I will, be the proverbial suicidal bomber here and sacrifice myself to help the mission.
Let's check in on the Cylons, Mike.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on over here, especially with Deanna. I mean, there's some stuff that's going on with Baltar and Caprica 6, which we could get through quickly.
Yeah, do you think Trisha Helfer just like, I don't know, requested a week off or something? Because this feels so Caprica coded. Caprica 6 coded, I should say, of like, I'm waking up, I'm having these dreams, I'm having doubts now, because up to this point, and it is interesting that it's through the perspective of Deanna, which the only thing we really knew about her was that like she was sort of like the media Cylon, right? That she was this big journalist in Final Cut. It is interesting to have one of the biggest like communicators have her own sort of communication breakdown in terms of trying to figure out exactly what is being told to her that's not explicitly in front of her face.
Yeah, so she's like, like clearly not. She's like, I'm sick of you in this spiral of self-loathing, and he's like, I barely even know you. Like, we haven't seen each other in a very long time.
You died last episode, and you came back like it was nothing.
Yeah, we do get this really interesting scene in a little bit of Cavill, the one who got shot during shot by Celix, I think. And he's like, she like said like, I'm gonna let you bleed out, and he's like, these humans, they just let me bleed out on the ground.
Yeah, like so much for the tolerant humans.
Yeah, and so a very yeah, right, which feels very relevant.
That's the thing is like it's so interesting in that it goes back to the philosophy that was stuck in the majority of these Cylons
You
programs,
should have
right?
heard this woman. She called me garbage. Ha,
Right,
the
exactly. Which is like
nerve.
it's this idea that well, humans have been treating us like crap for so long. It was only natural that we, really substantiate why we are the superior beings. What I find even more interesting, Josh, is that again, on paper, what had been told to us is that okay, it's more so a nuisance over anything that, when a Cylon dies, they just wake up in the pod and regenerate. Though we did see
Yes.
how uncomfortable the process could be for Boomer and for Caprica 6 at the end of season 2. What Cavill is saying is, from my memory, a new piece of information, which is that he said that three versions of himself died, but every time he came back, it became more and more painful. So it's
Yes.
not exactly just like opening the last recovered drive in the cloud. There's a little bit of wear and tear there.
Right. It's like whatever the effects of it are TBD, but like the sensation is not dissimilar to like what happens at the start of season 5 of Lost, right? To some of the people who've stayed behind, like suddenly they're starting to get like nosebleeds, and then the nosebleeds are starting to lead to like headaches, and the headaches are starting to lead to convulsions, and the convulsions are starting to lead to death. And like whether that's exactly the progression that's happening here is, again, another story. But I think like what Cavill is describing at least is like worsening symptoms of resurrection. I do
Yeah,
think that's worth noting.
I think so as well. Because that
If only because like if the simplest explanation for it is like these robots who long to be like
where the
have
people are.
agents, they long to have agency and to be like their own thing, and they're trying to evolve, but they're also trying to be taken seriously as living beings. If only because like you're getting one of these characters, and like one of the more hard and cynical versions of these characters, expressing that like coming back to life repeatedly, this one thing that for sure the humans cannot do, is starting to become a pain in the ass. Like it's starting to
Yeah.
grind my
No,
gears.
in
So
the
it's,
head, Josh. Not yet in the ass, though. Maybe that's a symptom worsening further.
so it's interesting to me. I think this idea that like this one thing that should sort of like feel like the universal blessing of being a Cylon is being looked at as like at best like an annoying inconvenience.
And I think as well, it helps maybe cover up the plot hole a bit of like, yeah, it doesn't matter to these Cylons because they'll just die and then they'll regenerate and it might be a minor inconvenience. Like, it also might make writing the Cylons more interesting because it's like, I don't want to die because it's just really painful to wake back up again. And so I'm not necessarily going to make reckless decisions with the knowledge that I'll just die and regenerate, because if I do, it's going to be a really rough going process. And we're starting to see very much so that these Cylons kind of have their own personal agendas. Avoidance of pain might be one of them.
Yeah. Okay, so just as like we're on that scene, we're gonna see like, well, what are we gonna do about the fact that like there's like boots on the ground and people are getting shot, and like the resistance has like guns now. I don't think that they know the full extent.
Yeah,
Of,
but remember, this was their big plan, right? They really wanted to make a statement by saying
right.
like, no more Mr. Nice Cylon. We're gonna round up a bunch of like
And they got like
prominent
totally
figures.
hosed, right?
Yeah,
Like they got completely hosed.
completely pantsed. So now it's like, okay, how do we exact this form of discipline at the moment? And what's very interesting is, again, something I maybe would have expected at some point, but not as quickly as episode 3. Gaius Baltar is in tears
Yeah.
at this cabinet meeting, like tears streaming down his face. It's interesting that he's responding to this now instead of like in response to the suicide bombings as an instance. But I guess, feelings can come and go in the most inopportune moments.
Yeah.
But I think it really is a representation of like just a culmination of everything. And the fact that he says like, why don't you just shoot me if it will remedy the situation? Like, he is realizing increasingly that this deal is getting worse and worse all the time. And he is in many ways kind of stuck in this situation, hated by the Cylons, hated by the humans, and used as this puppet to now purposely destroy a bunch of humans, as opposed to last time when it was done by accident.
Doral, while everyone's like fighting about what to do, Doral's like, listen, if push comes to shove, we could just nuke the place.
Yeah, just
well,
I mean, I think
that again also would be an exodus of sorts.
Yeah, and so I think there might be a chance that, honestly, because we saw this with Cavill, right? That he suggests this big crazy idea and it eventually gets pushed through if enough Cylons are on board.
Yeah,
I would imagine the nuclear option is going to be offered again.
Different from the season 5 nuclear option, for sure.
Exactly, of like, okay, well, if they're leaving the planet, let's just raise everything to the ground because we'll come back and they won't. And so I imagine that might be like a large point of conflict going into next episode that might put Gaius Baltar squarely in, the hot seat again, because he would theoretically have his finger on the button here.
So then let's follow Deanna's storyline.
Lucy
Lawless has a lot to do here.
Weird, grainy, freaky deaky dreams. I was trying to remember, Josh, if this is something we've seen canonically with other Cylons. Like, we know that Caprica 6 was having like visions of Baltar, but I couldn't remember if like Boomer or Baby Boomer had weird, almost John Locke-esque dreams of this variety in previous episodes.
I feel like Baby Boomer has. I think we got that from Baby Boomer back in season 1, but at this point for us, that's like literally like a year or whatever. Yeah. I don't know, like a long time.
So people can feel free to let us know if that's the case. But if not, it's the first time at least in a while that we have dealt with this, and especially again from such an out of nowhere character as Deanna, who I would say besides Simon had probably like the second least amount of airtime for any of the Cylons, and she's gonna get
obviously Lucy Lawless is a big get, genre icon here. And so I do think, though, like, if you're going to have genre icon Lucy Lawless as one of the Cylons, you ought to utilize her. And so she's getting utilized in a big way in this episode, where she has this dream, a baby's crying, she's holding the baby, and she sees like this tent with trinkets, and so she goes and walks through town and finds the tent from her vision. And who does she see inside but an axe murderer, Amanda Plummer, the incredible character actress Amanda Plummer, who most recently in the sci-fi space, the villain of Star Trek Picard season 3.
Yes, which I was so excited because Jess and I talked about that a lot during season 3 of Picard. She was one of the rare new elements of that season, but she sometimes upstaged them with how much she was channeling Ricardo Montalban as as Khan. There was just absolutely chewing up the scenery, and she does that here as well. So, okay, so she is like, I couldn't even call her a priestess. She seems more like an oracle. What's her name? Like Daedalus Slurpee or whatever.
Let's say that.
Daedalus Slurpee?
Let's go with Daedalus Slurpee. Make your point. I'll look it up in the meantime.
Yeah, so she comes in. Obviously, Deanna has been drawn in by these images of this sort of like shrine. What is it?
Dodona Saloy.
Okay, so listen, I was like 70% there. But basically, Deanna's trying to follow these markers to this woman who, again, she seems to be like in commune with the gods, and gods with an S, that she is following sort of the scriptures of the way the colonies did, with the gods set up like Mount Olympus, obviously in a bit of a contrast with the monotheistic society that the Cylons have. But it also seems like she kind of is able to be used as an envoy. She's sort of like a set of AA batteries, and that she kind of works in a bunch of different toys. And that also apparently Cylon God is communicating with her with a prophecy in mind.
Yeah. Apparently oracles are like a big thing, maybe canonically from the original series. I'm not entirely sure about that. But yeah, they use the Kamala extract in order to facilitate their visions, that they then use as like spiritual guidance to leaders and all this other stuff.
Does the Kamala extract give you the munchies? Because she is just wolfing down that candy when she comes in.
She wants chocolate and caramel. Look at the timing on this as we are recording this episode on November 4th, Mike, on the other side of a holiday that is all about chocolate caramels. and right before a very big day for Kamala Root.
Yeah, this is wild, though, that the last time we were talking about this with like, oh, Rosalind, I don't know if you should abuse this. It's having you to imagine snakes on your podium. There was no talk of her as a presidential candidate. And here we are. Time is weird, man. It's moving as quickly as BSG is.
Time is soup. Anyway, so Amanda Plummer, I can't call her anything else. Spoiler alert, Mike. I just did a quick look. I believe this is the only episode this character is in.
Damn it. I was hoping for a Dean Stockwell, and actually she's going to play a much larger role than you.
No, I had forgotten she was on the show. So this was
I was so thrilled to see her name in the credits. I was like, all right, where is she? Who's she going to be? Oh, creepy weirdo. Yep, that's Amanda Plummer.
Listen, potentially what she is saying is huge and game-changing depending on like the direction a lot of this stuff takes. So she may serve like a very important role, but this is the only time we'll see her. And she tells Deanna that she has she's like linked up with the dream. Like she sees, like she knows that she's here for the dream. And she says, I have a message for you. The fruit born of two peoples is alive. A child named after the wife and sister of the all-knowing Zeus, Hera, lives.
And then I think most important part of the prophecy is always the ironic twist, right? Especially coming from any oracle, which is like, you will get the opportunity. She is alive and you will find her and you will hold her in your arms, but it comes at the cost of everything you have done up to this point, which I would not be surprised if that is like the way we finish off Exodus Part 2, which is like, the entire Cylon operation gets destroyed, but maybe the baby gets left behind for some reason. And that is going to have, Deanna holding the baby in her arms to close out the episode as like everything is quite literally in flames around her.
If we believe in the Oracle's powers, and if we're taking her prophecy, not necessarily at face value, but imagining that some version of what she is saying is coming true at some point, one of the things she does say is, you'll hold Hera in your arms and know true love for the first time. That's very open as to what that could possibly mean. But notable.
Yeah. They could just have named the dog Hera, and then it would carry over. We found out the name of the dog by
Hera the dog.
The name of the dog is Jake.
Jake.
Yeah, when Deanna's about to interrogate Doc Coddle, she's like, come here, Jake. You don't see me as a filthy machine, do you? We're all equal in God's eyes.
And how does Jake respond to her?
Oh, he bites her on the leg and then pees on it.
Yeah, pees on her. I love Deanna going to Doc Coddle and being like, did the baby die? And Doc Coddle's like, yes. And Deanna's like, did the baby die? And Doc Coddle goes, yeah. And then you hear in the background, do 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 do, wah 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 wah, as they just like kind of like stand there sizing each other up, sniffing at each other's faces.
I mean, that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, much like Jake the dog, I think she's barking up the wrong tree here. Doc Coddle is not budging for anything. This is a guy that will like sell anything you give to him. And so Rosalind, for what it's worth, did pick a good inner circle to like absolutely take the lie to their graves. Maybe any other doctor would like just succumb to it, be like, no, the baby's actually alive. I way too much on my conscience. But Doc Coddle's like, yep. Don't you worry, Cylon. That baby is dead. That's a dead end right there. I'm so sorry. I have to go put one of your fellow Cylons out of their misery right now.
Yeah. So Doc Coddle is not budging at the very least. Great to see Doc Coddle. Confirmation Doc Coddle's still at it.
And still does not give a shit about anything that's going on. Like he's got his own stuff to deal with.
That day. No, none. All right, carrying through, we're doing this in like in storyline. We're just bringing out the storyline. So there's only one Starbucks scene in this episode. She apologizes to Casey, like, "Woof, Casey, so sorry I let you fall down them stairs."
Yeah,
maybe you should take a nap. And then Casey's like, "Doc Coddle told me I'm not supposed to nap after a possible concussion." And Starbucks says, "Go to sleep." And
yeah, exactly. It's very odd, but no, it seems like Casey is already starting to imprint herself upon Starbuck. Starbuck has a very like parently conversation with her, right? Where she's like, yeah, sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. I'm so sorry. And then as she steps away, like Casey gives her a cute little look and grabs her finger. And then you have freaking Leoben creeping around in the background. And Luckily, that's where we leave things.
Blinching it in the background, I feel like with like the like sort of
The
like
smile.
Tim Curry smile and like the little like, you know, he's just out
that
there.
meme of the guy behind the tree.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, very weird behavior. So that's it from Starbuck. The only other thing we know about Starbuck is that Sam said to Sharon, like, keep an eye out for Starbuck.
Yeah, have you seen my wife? Can you like tell her I say hi? She's been
Like,
gone
I don't know.
for 4
It's
months.
been 4 months. Maybe she's dead. Maybe she's not. Keep an eye out. That would be great. So that's the plan there. Let's beam up to the big G, where Hilo is supervising like this great like farewell moment between.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of it reminds me of like a Big Brother eviction ceremony in which like you're fairly new on, Josh, but like everyone hugs each other no matter what relationship you might have. It's just such an emotional experience for all who are involved that everyone is just hugging it out. And so here we get like the Pegasus people. We officially know what the plan is in the next scene, right? That Lee and the Pegasus are going to take all these off-screen civilians, go to a safe haven, a rendezvous point, miles and miles away, waiting for the big G to hopefully come back with the new Caprica people. If they don't, in 18 hours, keep going to Earth, assume that everyone you love is dead at this point. And so they're going to have a little bit of like a parting of the ways here, much like our beloved Lost equivalent of Exodus, as they're going to pour like a line of salt down. So I guess no vampires end up hopping on board here, supernatural style. And Racetrack is going to like read an excerpt from not the series Bible, but the canonical Bible. And then they're all going to basically like kick over the line and start hugging it out.
Interesting. Fascinating.
And then Hilo and Dee are going to have, I imagine, their first conversation ever in their lives.
They've talked before, maybe.
But like, I just realized, I was like, yeah, there's no reason why these two characters would have had a conversation on screen together in front of us.
So Racetrack's reading scripture. Their enemies will divide them. Their colony is broken in the fiery chasm of space. Their shining days renounced by a multitude of dark sacrifices. Yet still they will remain always together. I don't know why
Racetrack Palpatine coming in. Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why.
I don't know. We're talking Beggars Canyon. We're talking Racetracks. You just have the prequels on your mind.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry. I will make it legal. That's big Doral energy, actually.
It really is. Yeah, we'll just nuke all of Kashyyyk if need be.
But sir, is that legal?
That sounds like very much an episode 1 thing of like, oh my, but the trade routes, is that legal at all?
Adama and Lee have this nice moment where Lee is like, gosh, I really wish I could convince you not to leave. And Adama said, you already tried. They hug it out. Adama tells him, don't make me cry in my own hangar deck, is a great moment. And then Lee goes to his Raptor, asks permission to leave to return to the Pegasus, and they both salute at each other. And I don't know, have you really never seen this as a GIF before, Mike?
No, I've never seen this before.
The exchange of because it's very emotional in the context of the episode.
Yes, of course. That like yes, this is the umpteenth time that father and son have possibly said goodbye to each other, but it's still very loaded. It's still great performances from Edward James Olmos and Jamie Bamber. Somehow,
this is like the stakes feel like higher than they have felt ever on this show, short of like the initial bombings of Caprica, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have in this case Lee and Bill splitting apart from each other, and maybe like who knows when they're going to see each other next, right? That if this plan goes wrong, or if there's some reason why things go a different way, and Bill and Lee are not going to see it. Like this could be it for a while. So it's emotional. There's the whole I can't do it. I can't hit the high note anymore. But like there's like that Gaelic song in the background. It's like very much
it's the Bear McCreary like proto Middle Earth.
It's like that Hand
right?
of God moment, right?
Yeah.
Back from season 1 that I love so much. And they salute at each other. But the show decided to put Lee Adama in a fat suit.
That's exactly it. Yes, thank you.
When you rob it of the music and you just leave it with, oh, hey, Emily Fox coming in on the live stream.
And slowly shutting the
and
door.
slowly shutting the door. Wow, a rare video babe. How about that?
Ooh, video babe.
Video babe.
This
Don't
is why
get
you should
any
be watching
ideas.
on YouTube, folks.
Mike, get that out of your head.
Never.
And so like even in this
Next time I download, it'll be sticking through my head like a white hot poker.
No, I hate all of that. They decided that it would be a good idea to put Lee Adama in a fat suit here for season 3. And so when you take the music out of the scene and you take the emotion out of the scene, and instead what you're left with is just Bill saluting and the camera kind of like zooming in on him, and then the camera zooming in really hard on Lee Adama in a fat suit returning the salute, and how ridiculous that looks because that's Jamie Bamber being Jiminy Glicked. It has a totally different connotation. I'm gonna see if I can't find it for you in Discord, DM it to you right now because it's ridiculous.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I completely agree. I think a lot of the emotionality, and I love the dynamic between not only these two actors, but these two characters. It does feel like a real lived-in father and son relationship. And I mean, there is also tension in the fact that, like, what Adama is implying is like, yeah, if I don't come back, I'm dead, and now you're the new me. You will be the new Admiral Adama. You will be in charge of basically leading humanity to the promised land. It's very much the initial Roslin prophecy, right? Of like, I will help lead people to Earth, but I will not make it there. And so you have to continue in my stead. And it's a big deal. Like, yes, there have been many times, I'm sure, throughout his father's storied military career that, Lee has thought that he might not see his dad again. But this feels different because then the implied responsibility is, yeah, and then you're in charge. But I could not agree more. It is so heavily obfuscated from the fact that he is wearing, I'll just say objectively, a stupid fat suit. Like,
it's bad. It's bad.
He might as well be wearing like a Groucho Marx mustache and glasses to just completely take out any sobriety that's in this scene.
It's not great. It's not great.
Yeah, I have never seen this GIF before, and I love it.
It's one of my favorites.
How much I hate it, I should say.
It's one of my favorites, and I was very excited to finally get to this moment to show it to you.
Yeah, it just feels wholly inappropriate, yet also appropriate for the unfortunate things they have done to this character.
It's like it's major shade towards the writers of like, in some ways, I think I maybe kind of understand what you were aiming for, and then in so many other ways, I don't. And why? Why?
No, I mean, look, no, you know what should even drive the point further about how bad of a decision this is? When Tyrell gets upset, he shaves his beard.
Yeah.
So when Lee Adama gets upset, you don't need to put him in a fat suit.
Jiminy Glick.
It could be that simple.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish out the episode. Some storylines colliding. Sharon is going to go to the detention center. Where was it? It was last episode, right? Where a different Sharon went and met with Jammer, who told her like, "Hey, Callie is being locked up." Should be noted, right?
Yeah.
Jammer once again seems like he escaped certain doom. He was there for the
Cylon
firing
convoy
squad.
lost a wheel and Jammer got away. Hey.
So Jammer's gone. He keeps jamming. Sharon runs into Deanna when she's going to get the launch.
I was talking about this last week of like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if she tried to parent trap it and act like regular Boomer? Nope. Deanna immediately sees through it. Whether it's just like the gait of her walk or the fact that she's there and she's like, nope, I know exactly who you are. You're betraying your own kind.
They can determine who is who, which versions are which, right? Like that is a thing that they are able to do.
Yeah, so that's why she was able to get in past like all the Centurions, besides getting her own sort of like a heckling Cersei at the end of season 6 or season 5 of Game of Thrones, I should say, like walk of shame. But once she gets in there, Deanna's like, and you are not who you say you are, but I'm glad you're here because I have a truth bomb to set off?
Do I have the truth for you? She says, hey, Hera's alive. I just talked to Amanda Plummer about it. You want to stick with me? And Sharon's like, lies, and just shoots her, kneecaps her, just shoots Deanna in the legs.
Yeah, which I love. Because I think that it's a little bit of a subversion of expectations. I think especially knowing this was a 2-part episode, I was very much holding my breath for like, okay, yep, this will be the last minute thing that Deanna uses to get Baby Boomer on her side. They won't get the launch codes because Baby Boomer is so pissed off at the humans for keeping this from her. But Baby Boomer, at least in this moment, has the wherewithal to be like, yeah, you know what? Listen, I may hate the humans if this is true, but I hate the Cylons more. And so she does end up moving forward here by getting the launch codes. You know, luckily Tyrell is not involved in the inner circle. So when she's like, "Oh, did you see my baby's ashes that you spread a year ago?" And Tyrell's like, "Yeah, I would never forget that. What the hell? Why are you asking about that?" But I would imagine we are far from being out of the woods right now with Baby Boomer. I would also imagine a conversation with Laura Roslin is very much in the picture sooner rather than later. And that might, I don't know. I don't think that Baby Boomer is going to be like, okay, I'm going to do this huge about face turn to support the Cylons. I could imagine her becoming maybe a little bit more of a vigilante right now. We're like, maybe if she's in the middle between humanity and Cylons and she's like 90% on the side of humanity versus 10% for Cylons, I think this could squarely get her back into like 60-40 or even 50-50 territory of, okay, listen, the Cylons are shit for what they do, but like, I have been directly lied to and had my own daughter withheld to me and lied to about her death by a set of humans. Maybe the Cylons weren't so wrong about how bad they could be.
Who can say? But I think that these are all logical things that you are placing together.
So all that is to say, I'm glad that we encountered the plot point at least, and Deanna, being a smart character, like outright reveals everything she's been told rather than keeping it coy. I'm also glad that at the moment it doesn't derail this forward moving momentum where, you know, Baby Boomer disregards it, gets the launch codes, but it is still a seedling in her head right now that I imagine is going to sprout fairly quickly.
All right, as we begin to close out the episode, we go back to the Galactica. Hilo tells Adama the listening raptor is back. The Resistance has the launch keys. So it's go time. And Adama gives a classic Adama speech, which we have here in full.
Have we ever said Adama initiative?
We just did.
Is that the first time we've done Adama initiative? I think people behind the curtain will have to correct us here.
I can't remember you saying it before.
Shame on us for not coming up with that sooner.
Yeah. So here's his Adama initiative. You ready? Namaste. He says, "This is the Admiral. You've heard the news. You know the mission. You should also know there's only one way that this mission ends, and that's with the successful rescue of our people on New Caprica. Look around you. Take a good look at the men and women that stand next to you. Remember their faces. For one day you will tell your children and your grandchildren that you served with such men and women as the universe has never seen. And together you accomplished a feat that will be told and retold down through the ages and find immortality as only the gods once knew. I'm proud to serve with you. Good hunting." Jump prep begins. Episode ends.
Yeah.
Bill Adama always with like the best speeches in the galaxy, of course, but I think this one really is epically powerful because he's right, potentially anyway, right? Like if they are successful here and if humanity continues to create new generations someday, these will be people who maybe are not all name checked. They won't necessarily know who Apollo was or know who Hilo was.
Oh, the guy with the fat suit?
You know, some people just don't know Hilo and aren't going to recognize him. So he may just not have gotten any like play here. But the idea that they would all sort of be like amorphously grouped together as the saviors of New Caprica, like Bill is like shouting down like from the top of the mountain and shouting out mythical lore into the future.
Right. This is the stuff of legends. You will be remembered in time immemorial. I mean, it's very much like Braveheart pump up stuff.
It's
right?
just like this. It's like this speech that sort of like, you know, encapsulates like the stakes are astronomical, but don't even worry about them because you are the predestined saviors. And here we go. And so like, leading with confidence in this like moment where all of the odds are against them, but he says there's only one way this mission ends, because the other way this mission ends is unspeakable. There's only two ways, and this is season 3, episode 3. So like, they're not all gonna die, but like, it could be bad for many of them.
Yeah.
And this operation may not go exactly as Bill thinks, but he has this level of like, I don't know. There's this level of like he's a studied guy. We know his feelings on literature and books. And I think that this is a man who understands history unfolding. And I just think that's supremely cool. I think that this is a really, really cool way to close out the first half.
I completely agree. I mean, I think it was the perfect way to end a first part, to really set up, outside of like doing a montage as to where all of our characters are. It's a perfect way to set the scene while also building our own energy as to what's to come next week. Because also put yourself in the mind of this character. Yes, it's only been 3 episodes for us, but it's been like 4 months for him where he has felt so incredibly helpless. He talked about this last episode, right? That he has been saddled with this like immeasurable guilt that essentially they caught him sleeping. That like he was one of the rare people up in the ionosphere waiting for any sign of the Cylons, and they caught him napping. They swooped in, they took everything over, and now, with the exception of his son, like so many people that he cares about are at best prisoners and at worst dead. And so it's really interesting to feel a bit of catharsis in Bill's talk as well. Yes, there's a bit of this like objectivity. I am your leader. Here's this big pump up speech quality to him. But you could tell he truly believes it. This isn't like the so say we all thing where he's like, yeah, that was actually a load of bullshit. I don't really know where Earth is, but damn it sounded great. Like, this is someone that knows that he is on the precipice of trying at least to mount something that could save humanity. Despite the fact that humanity is already kind of charging off right now with Lee Adama, this feels so personal for Bill Adama that you can feel that passion in its delivery and in its words, especially of like, you all are about to become the stuff that, you know, generations upon generations will talk about. You know, just when things look the most bleak, you will come in brandishing a bunch of flashlights in order to help brighten up our entire landscape moving forward. It's so incredibly inspiring. And you could tell, again, from Bill's perspective, that this mission means so much to him, considering some of the personal stakes he himself has and how he feels like he let New Caprica down kind of universally.
So as we move on from that to doing our MVPs and LVPs this week, I only have 2 MVPs, but we're on the guy. So I gave mine, my first one to Adama, because if we're going to rescue everybody, it's going to be because of his, whether it's foolishness or stubbornness, certainly his courage. And I think that this speech for me is an all-timer. And so gotta recognize greatness when it's happening before you, much like Adama is in that speech.
Yeah, and listen, not to put the cart before the horse too much, because like you said, it wouldn't be a TV show if there wasn't some sort of complications involved with the plan. But like, he did succeed in the primal part of the mission, which was taking the big risk to send Baby Boomer down there to get the launch codes. That was a mission successful. And so that should be acknowledged here. I have 3 MVPs, so I will give 2 of mine because I know we are double tapping this last one here. I'm going to give 1 to Tyrell because, listen, what he was able to do, it looked like an absolutely terrible position where a bunch of innocent people, including 2 named characters, were going to die. But Tyrell was able to, with the guidance of Tidance, if you will, be able to find the map, lead this expedition, and save his wife's life in the process. So point for the clean-shaven Chief Tyrell. And I will give a point to Deanna as well, specifically for that final scene she has where, like, she is able to put a lot of information together and I think make a cogent argument to Sharon Agathon. It happens to fall, you know, not in the right place in the right time at this moment, but it was such an interesting highlight for the character that I'm going to highlight her as well.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I gave Sharon Agathon a point.
And I finished with my final MVP point on her as well.
I think, you know, she's able to, you know, so far, like, all of this hinges on Sharon's willingness to play ball. And so far, she's like playing her role to a T, and even is thrown this curveball about what could have possibly happened with Hera. And Deanna, we know, is whether or not, like, she doesn't necessarily know everything, but like Deanna's on it. She's clocked it, and she's telling Sharon the truth. And Sharon still decides to stick to the plan. So props to Sharon. That could have gone a totally different way, for sure. Moving on to the bottom 5, you and I are unified in Ellen.
Yeah, sorry,
Which I
Ellen.
do actually feel really bad about, because she seems like she's like, Saul, I did it for you. Like, I think her intentions were in the right place. She just, like, as often is the case with Ellen Ty, did not really think it through.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think this feels like a different way of doing it for Ty than in prior seasons, where it's like, that pesky Adama and President are getting in your way. You would do such a better job, where she was kind of like trying to be the Lady Macbeth. Here, it does seem like a little more good-hearted in that nature. But yeah, to your point, unfortunately, the common denominator is that it's way too cute by half. And so she gets, I mean, I also gave her an LVP point because she gets caught, basically. It's not even about like the morality of the actions it does. It's just that it's so sloppily done that she immediately gets caught for it.
Yeah, not great. Amanda Plummer, I gave an LVP point just because I couldn't give her an MVP point, but also knowing this is her only episode, I wanted to just make sure she's on our list.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. If I had another MVP point to give, it might have been her for like just the appearance shot. I mean, that's what I did initially with
the ceremonial MVP point in the LVPs. I just want to make sure that history recognizes Amanda Plummer was here.
I mean, that's what I initially did with Brother Cavill, being like, wow, what a great one-time performance. Let me remember it forever and always. It's like, oh, wow, this is a lot bigger than I thought it would. So especially the fact that this is her only appearance on the show, I think it makes a lot of sense. I will give my other LVP point to the Cylons. The Cylons making their first appearance here on the MVPs and LVPs because, man, they take a big one here. We'll get into it later on with the Cylons versus the fleet. But again, the fact that they had in their sights Laura Roslin, Tom Zarek, and a bunch of people, and they all got absolutely embarrassed, not only there, but even like the people that were trying to get a drop on the rendezvous point, they get absolutely blown to smithereens. It really goes to show the weaknesses that exist in like the Cylons thinking they're playing 3D chess here.
Yeah. So with that logic too, I give Brother Cavill my final LVP point. He gets killed, so that's easy.
And also, he was the one that was putting out this big operation, right, for the public executions. And from our perspective, it didn't work.
Correct. Okay, as we're doing the Cylons versus the fleet, our guiding principle has been the Cylons still have New Caprica under control and the humans are still on the planet. Does that hold for you this week, or does the fact that the Cylons get pretty roughed up in this one?
No, it's got to be the fleet this week. I mean, again, just the fleet won, in my opinion, in like the first 15 minutes when both sides of that operation gets completely botched. And now add on top of that, Sharon was able to go in there and get the launch codes. Now maybe the Cylons win next week, but I'm taking things as they come. And as they came to me in this episode, this does feel like the first fleet win of the season.
Okay, ranking the episode, which of course all of you can do by sending your emails into downthehatch@rhap.gmail.com. Send your scores in on a scale from 0 on the low end to 4.2 on the high end. We're not ranking this episode yet because we're going to consider Exodus as a whole. So we will revisit this next week. Send in your scores downthehatch@rhap.gmail.com. Mike, no jumps in this episode, no visible jumps.
They're planning on one, though. They say that all the spacecraft that is stranded on New Caprica, they all have enough Tillium to make one jump. So I think we're going to get a big one next episode.
Let's see. Frack count, 9 fracks, 6 of which come from Chief. 1 from Sam, 1 from Cavill, 1 from Ty. Chief is now the frack leader for season 3.
Interesting. I mean,
9,
he has sort of like taken on
this 5 and Starbucks 5.
He has kind of taken on the Starbuck role, right? Of like this rough and tough resistance leader. That it does make sense. I mean, is this arguably the most we've seen Chief Tyrrell? I mean, obviously he had extenuating outside circumstances in season 2 that led to an extended absence from the show, but this feels far and away the most front and center we've seen this character.
Okay, so what else do we have here? Oh yeah, the Starbuck Apollo frack counter.
Just
Nothing.
waiting for the expiration date to come, leaving that milk in the fridge. It ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Closing in on it. Why was the milk out at the fridge?
I was getting it for Ben Linus. He asked
You
for
know what?
some,
It's
and
fine.
I will comply.
We already established that Sharon counts as the fleet touching down on New Caprica. Any Cylon model updatings last week was a big one.
No, I mean, I actually am glad in retrospect that I moved Deanna up above Leobin now.
You would have done it today, I think. If
yeah, she had such an interesting episode.
Yep.
So we will see. I'm intrigued to see how much more will develop this character. If she does end up becoming one of the more religious centers.
Unlike Amanda Plummer, we do see Lucy Lawless with some frequency on this show.
Yes, exactly. So there's a chance that if she becomes an even more interesting character, she might move out above Cavill at this point, especially because I would also imagine that Cavill might get, much like Deanna herself, kneecapped a little bit. I mean, his big policy failed. And so, granted, they're going to have bigger fish to fry immediately, but I do wonder how much Mr. Law and Order is going to have to take a back seat in the episodes to come.
Well, that fish fry is coming next week, Mike. Season 3, Episode 4, Exodus Part 2. Do you want to predict how this is going to go? We usually make predictions of what's happening next week. I've lapsed on this for the last couple of episodes.
I mean, I always like fill in the blanks and throw stuff out. I think for me, the big one is going to be that a lot of characters will get away. The jump will be successful, but I think some way, somehow, Baby Hera will be left behind. And so again, I just have this image in my head of the waste of New Caprica around the Cylons, but Deanna is holding Baby Hera in her arms. And I think that will serve as an interesting instigator for what's to come after, because again, if we are moving on from New Caprica pretty much entirely, now it becomes a question of okay, are we just going to Earth? But this could be a very interesting MacGuffin of okay, this is something that, to Rosalind's point, could be the shape of things to come. Do we have to go back and get the baby again? So that's how I'm going to predict things go in a major way next week.
Okay, we will see. We will be back closing the loop on Exodus. Make sure you're subscribed. Down the hatch, Battlestar Galactica, wherever you get your podcasts. We're here on RHAP. We Know Scripted TV. We Know ScriptedTV.com is where you can subscribe to the whole feed, get Penguin recaps from Mike and Grace. Silo is starting back up soon, so Mike and Grace are going there as well. Amanda Not Plummer is going to be busy with some other stuff that we will tell you all about relatively soon. We Know Scripted TV. Maybe we are we're what is the opposite of an Exodus? We're
Genesis.
We're we're heating up for our Sega Genesis moment.
Exactly. We're making an arc of coverage. But yeah, I would say for those of you that don't know Silo, it is an Apple TV Plus show. No, not that one. That begins with the S. The other one that begins with S. It's based on a series of sci-fi novels written by Hugh Howey. That is a post-apocalyptic dystopian fiction that takes place within a 144-foot silo that is underground. It has 10,000 remnants of humanity inside there, but there's a lot of mystery behind the scenes. If you love your mystery box shows, which if you're listening to Down the Hatch, chances are that you do, really recommend Silo. It's a very fun show that I think does a fantastic job of world building, this odd landscape that the further and further you get down that spiral staircase, the more you start to spiral and realize that things may not be what it seems. Season 2 comes back next Friday, the 15th. Grace and I will be doing episodic coverage. But if you need a reminder as to what happened in Season 1 only last year, we'll be putting out an episode this week, kind of recapping what's happened so far and what we can look forward to for Season 2.
Incredible. So that's some of what you can look forward to here on the We Know Scripted TV feed. As always, huge thanks to our team behind the curtain, Ben and Brendan, for making this podcast possible. Brendan, who goes through all of the episodes of Battlestar Galactica, had a couple of notes for this one, but the bulk of the goods are going to be for next week, so we're going to save them for next time. So of course, thanks to all of you hatchlings out here listening to this podcast, accepting the pods that are coming your way through these pneumatic tubes. We appreciate you so much. We hope that you, unlike humanity, will stick around on New Caprica at least until next week. When we close the loop on Exodus, we will see what happens on the other side of that. So hold on to your horses, jumping back into BSG as soon as we possibly can. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.